the youngest population in the world. This can either be an opportunity or a ticking time bomb. At Young and Flourishing Hub, we seek to turn these numbers into an opportunity for Africa to become a global leader. Join us every Monday only on Church of Uganda Family TV as we take you through the discussion of different topics that will enable you to become world-class leaders and mentors, grow your finances, and become world-class innovators. Young and Flourishing, transforming Africa.
Young and Flourishing, transforming Africa. A very good evening to you, our esteemed viewer. Thank you so much for choosing Church of Uganda Family TV at such a time. We are grateful that you've made the right choice. I believe this is a life-changing choice. So, the decision you've made this evening is not in vain. This is Flourishing Hub, and Flourishing Hub is brought to you by Young and Flourishing Foundation. Now, Young and Flourishing Foundation is built on 4 pillars, and it is because of those 4 pillars that we are here on the 16th day of January 2023. Remember, this is Flourishing Hub with me, Edrine Mukalazi. So, the first pillar is money. Yes, we all need money. We work hard so that we can get this money. We wake up very early in the morning. We go back home late because we are striving to get money. However, money that is not guided will soon be wasted. That is why Young and Flourishing Foundation teaches you how to work and get this money, but they also teach you how to save it. And after saving this money, they then teach you how to invest it. Isn't that very good? Because when you invest it, it yields more and more profits. And the second pillar is daring in life. We have a belief. We can never despise humble beginnings. Those ideas that you despise can become world-class businesses. That is why Young and Flourishing opens your mind to these business opportunities. And when you take them up and persistently settle, there'll be world-class businesses. The third pillar is mentorship. We all need mentors because, yes, we want to be world-class innovators. We want to be world-class businessmen and women. But without mentorship, we may not achieve. Why? We need people who will speak in our lives. People who have been where we've not been. People who have tried and failed and retried. You know, they have a story to tell us, a story of victory, a success story to share with you, to speak in your life, to guide you. Now, the last pillar is strategy. We all need plans. We need to have a strategy in life as we walk, because if you do not have a strategy, then you'll always be in other people's plans. If you do not have a plan as an individual, yes, we are still in the early days of the year. Do you have a plan for this year? January is soon gone, but did you have a plan for January that you'll get back on the checklist and say, yes, according to what I wanted to do in January, I've achieved this or I've failed this that I can push on in February? So as a young person, you need to be strategic. You need to have a plan as you work out your life and your future. Isn't that very good from Young and Flourishing Foundation? Wow. Today we are back with an amazing topic. This topic is about the education system. What is the nature of the education? Is the education system in Africa really valid or important? Is it relevant to the needs of Africa? Now, to be specific to Uganda, we know that before the coming of the colonialists, we had non-formal education, and this education was aimed at skilling and mentoring, nurturing young people to be disciplined, to be respectful, but also to train them skills like hunting, skills like and then sex education. But when the white man came in, formal education was introduced. So we all know that that is when schools were constructed. That is when people started going to schools. So with the time after Uganda attained its independence, attempts were made to reform the education system. And I think the most remarkable attempt is the white paper, which gave birth to what we call the Kajubi Commission. Kajubi Commission was a commission that was reviewing the education system, and this commission was made by the late Professor, he's the late Professor Senteza Kajubi, and people from Makerere University know him very well. So that is the education system that Uganda has had for all along, where you are supposed to go to from P1 to P7, then you go to from senior 1 to senior 4, then senior 5, senior 6, and then 3 years of a bachelor's degree and 2 years of a diploma, like that. So that is what was in the Kajubi Commission until of late. That was 2020, when the Ministry of Education and Sports, together with the National Curriculum Development Center, came up with now a new education system. That was a revised curriculum, which is called the lower secondary curriculum, new lower secondary school curriculum. So all these reforms are aimed at improving and bettering the education system, because they want this education we attain to be relevant. But the big question is it relevant even with all these reforms that are in place? With me is one of the people who is not new in this place, who is not new on Flourishing Hub. He has been here several times, but this year it is his first time to be with us. We are with the one engineer, Dr. Rumanzi Benita Bushari. He is the director, Africa Population Institute, and now, because he's the director of African Population Institute, we are discussing this with the right person, because we need a transformation in African education. Dr. Rumanzi, Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you, Edrine.
You're most welcome to Flourishing Hub 2023.
I'm literally glad to be here once again.
We are grateful. It has been a while. Viewers of Flourishing Hub missed you, I believe.
But I was here last year.
In Ask the CEO, not Flourishing Hub. It has been a while.
It's true.
Yes. So kindly greet them, and then we shall go into today's topic.
Okay, good evening, viewers. I am glad to be here once again to share with you the nuggets of truth that will help in transforming our continent, because it has always been my desire as a person, and I'm passionate about seeing the youth in Africa being transformed from poverty, ignorance, and disease. So I really want to share with you what I feel will be able to help the people that are watching us tonight. So please stay tuned. We have much in store for you.
Sure. So this program is cutting across school proprietors, officials in the government, and then the private sector. You know, all people are involved in this. So don't go anywhere. Like I told you as I was introducing this program, that you made the right choice. So Dr. Rumanzi, we want to begin with, I gave a brief background of the education system in Uganda, but we want to look at the current education system in the entire Africa. How is it like?
Yeah, basically, you talked in your preamble, you talked about the pre-colonial versus post-colonial kind of education system that we have in Africa now. But I just want to demystify the myth and say that Africa has had education because civilization began here in Africa. If you remember, like the Egyptian civilization, and at that time we had no countries like separated to be Uganda or what. Africa, the greater part of Africa was called Egypt, and the other one was called Kush, which is the present-day Ethiopia. So at that time, we had education, whether it was formal or informal, but people were taught science, were taught to survive in the hostile environment of the desert condition of the sub-Saharan Africa. And at this point, I would say for sure, the colonialists came with this formal education, but there is a way that it suppressed the indigenous kind of knowledge. So I want us to look at how do we bring about that previously
Yes.
in formal education. Then we inculcate it into this new system of education, and we become more practical than theoretical. Because I see African youth are just doing theoretical.
Okay.
I have seen studies like a study which said that Africans, they are likely to only work to get the jobs, but the theory of education that they have is not practical. It is not technical. So I want to commend what the governments are doing in Africa, especially our government of Uganda, when we have the skilling program. That will help people to know that much as you have formal education, you have graduated, but when you get out of the school, you should be able to be very innovative and come up with problem-solving skills. And
we are grateful. We are grateful these days that has been more inclusive. Before it was skilling the girl child, but these days it is presidential initiative of skilling the boy and girl child, which I think is good now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2014, there was a study done by the Inter-University Council of East Africa. And they found out that majority of graduates, they churned out of the university when they were half-baked. This is not my statement. Meaning that they were unable to go and work. That's why employees tend to incur an extra cost of training, hands-on experience. So as Africa, we need our education system to be structured in such a way that when you come out of the training institution, you are fully baked and you are able to take on the challenge of employment.
And actually, to ascertain that, before Ask the CEO closed up, I think that was the last guest, he was here and he shared with us, he said he studied from university, he studied IT, but when he came out, because the skills he had were not the skills that the employers needed, he had to go back and study a different course because he realized he was irrelevant in the community, even with his degree, which I think was very bad and is still very bad because it seems this is the way. So we now look at the challenges that are attached to this education system, which is more theoretical than practical.
Yeah, there are a number of challenges Africa has faced. And those challenges are not limited to only education. But when you look at our health sector, when you look at our business sector, when you look at our, we are not yet industrialized. We still depend on importing everything that we use on this continent. And yet we are the suppliers of the materials to the rest of the world. So if we have these raw materials, can we have an inclusive education that will help our young people to know how to turn into these resources into finished products ready for use in the market? So this is why we need an education that is supportive to Africa and Africans. The education that we have is all imported. We literally got it from the people who came and colonized us. But they trained us to work as secretaries. But we are not the people who are think tanks. So if we can come in as think tanks, then we will be able to transform our continent.
In other words, they teach you to use a computer, but they don't teach you, they don't help you to innovate it. How
to make it. Wow. You know how to use a computer, you only know how to use this mobile phone, but you don't know its components and how it is used. So can we get into that practical bit and we know how to do it? I will give an example. There is a certain story that I read that Africans made an aircraft. And when it was able to fly, they were seated on it with their professor. And as you know, when the plane is about to take off, they give you the cabin crew information to help you. So at that time, they told the professor that this aircraft has been made by your students, but the professor had to call for an emergency landing so that he can run out of it, because he never trusted what he has been teaching his students. So in that case, I would say it is not enough. What we are studying is not enough because we don't trust it, even ourselves. I would also give an example of why do we always import experts from China and where to fix our roads, to fix our rivers, to fix our technical bit of infrastructure. It's because we don't trust our own. But if they were trained from the beginning, then we would trust them. Yet
we have universities that that graduate engineers,
civil engineers, and electrical engineers and the like. But our system does not support that. So it's high time our governments became like the government of China, which sends people to different kinds of the continent, different parts of the world, to go and learn and study. Then they come back and practice what they have studied in their own country. That's why they have been able to build flyovers and the like. But for us, we are here. Even the little that are trained, the few people that are trained are also brain drained. You find that they are not working here. So we need to look through our education system. So the kind of education that Africa needs needs to be very practical.
Yeah, we were still looking at the challenges, and you've given us around 2 challenges that are associated with this education system that we have currently in Africa. Are there any other challenges?
Yeah, we also have a big challenge that most of our young people are not in school. There is a study that was done by UWISA data that 60% of the youth in Africa between 15 and 17 are not in school. And that is a very productive age. 15 to 17. If they are not in school, that is a time bomb. Then also it says that 9 million girls between 6 to 11 will never go to school, because people still believe that the girls are not supposed to be what? In school. So they will never go to school a lot. So there is a lot of drop out due to financial constraints, and therefore our governments should be able to put in their best to help even those who cannot afford to pay to be able to acquire education. Yes, there has been
even with the prevailing
universal primary education, there has been universal secondary education, but all of it is not non-inclusive, because when you look at it, the few who go through such schools, they don't go far. And now the private schools are the ones taking students.
But there are also university loans that the government gives out to students to continue with studying.
Yes, the university loans are there, but that's why we said it needs to be all inclusive. All those, that is like dropping a drop in the ocean. I mean, there are how many students finish
and of recent, a report came out that over 1,000 students had been disqualified of this loan.
And what was the reason? Did they give you the reason?
The reason wasn't clear, actually.
So, yes, but despite all those efforts, literacy levels are rising on the continent. Yeah, as it was in the 90s, that's not how it is right now.
But
they are rising.
I as well think that the illiteracy levels are rising simply because of maybe the financial constraints, that you realize education, if I may put it, is becoming more expensive. For instance, if we are taking the school fees cap that the government has suggested, then that will mean that every student who is in ordinary level, that is senior 1 to senior 4, they'll need to pay 690,000 shillings in whichever school you go to. But there is a parent who cannot even afford 400 or even 200
who cannot
as
even
school
afford
fees.
Food
exactly.
For the child.
So will they really be able to maintain their children in schools?
That's why we are talking about that literacy levels, though they are rising, many people are going to school. We have many graduates, and graduates, but they are still looking for jobs. There is a high degree of unemployment, simply because our education system never favored them at the beginning to be innovative. but it only trained them to go and look for jobs. So this night we are here to tell the youth that yes, you have studied degree A and B, but can you add on a skill? And this is what we are doing at Africa Preparation Institute. For us, we are literally getting into skilling and innovation. That's why we call ourselves a Center for Innovation and Excellence. We have people who finish university, but they still come to us to do maybe a 3 weeks or a 4 weeks certificate in order to get the skills that the employers need. Yeah.
So, still continuing with this talk of the illiteracy levels. I think I also look at an issue of unemployment, where very many of maybe the people we look up to, this could be our elder siblings, have studied but have not been able to attain employment, and so the little ones look at this as a demotivation.
As a demotivation.
Yes, so they lose interest in education, and now that means the literacy levels are rising, but then there is no platform to accommodate them, maybe to give them a skill that can sustain them throughout as they continue. So that is also another problem that we look out to now. As you say that at Africa Population Institute, you're dealing with skilling. Do you also skill the uneducated, or you only skill those who have been to school and you only give them additional skills that they need as they look for jobs?
At whichever level you come on, at API we deal with you, because we are also training house helpers, and we teach them how to become effective house helpers. Okay. So now let me use an example. Okay, I will quote Robert Mugabe. He said that in Africa we teach our students more English than agriculture. That's why we have many people who are hungry but they speak English, or who speak English but they walk hungry. You see that? So it depends on what you're teaching your child. So children need to be taught how to survive in a season and out of season, how to live a life that is viable and that is resourceful. So in that case, I would say agriculture should be the key. So if you are going to teach someone how to do agriculture, like urban agriculture, you don't need to first know English. Yes, you're teaching them English as a basic for them to know how to trade after they have done they have gotten their produce. But in that case, we say everyone is liable to study and learn something that can transform his life. Okay.
Before we take a break, I also bring this so that you talk about it. We now look at the different challenges attributed to the kind of or the nature of education that we have. Because when you look around, this education system doesn't differ a lot. That is why someone who has studied from Uganda can effectively suit the education system in Kenya or be in Tanzania like that. So you realize that this education is almost the same. In some countries, they only change languages. That here they study in French, or here they study in language A or B, but the system is the same. Now, what is the real need of education in Africa? Because we look at, according to what you've just said, we realize that we should take the skills path. That we now, but is this the real education that Uganda needs, even when we need doctors, even when we need engineers, even when we need pilots, even when we need lawyers? Should skills be the front page of Africa's education?
Oh yeah, that's true, because when you look at the education system in other countries, in other continents, like people who have gone to Harvard, people who have gone to Cambridge, literally what they do, you find that if someone was to be a pilot, they took that path, and they didn't learn things to do with geography and many other things to do. You understand? Okay, pilotism, you may need geography. But I watched something on YouTube of recent. Someone a journalist from Africa was interviewing Americans and asking them, university students, asking them, can you tell me 5 countries in Africa? And mind you, these Americans didn't know that how many countries are in Africa, and they didn't know the countries, I mean, those 5 countries in Africa. But for us, we studied the Tennessee River Project.
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Tennessee Valley Authority.
North America.
So we know everything to do with the prairies of North America and the like in Canada. But
Canadian prairies.
Those people are not concerned to know what is happening here in Uganda or in Africa. The Rhinelands in Germany. All that we studied it. But for them, even asking them what is Uganda, they don't know. There's someone who said, I'm the president of Uganda, and they could ask you, which company is that? There are people who don't know Uganda there, outside.
Actually, it reminded me of someone who said that days then, people didn't know about Uganda, but they knew about Idi Amin, so they thought Idi Amin was the country.
So now this is why we literally need to do that curriculum development review. And we see what literally helps us, because we burden our children with a lot of stuff, and which at the end of it all, they don't even use it.
There is a curriculum review that happened for Ugandan education specifically, and our curriculum was reviewed. So we have the thematic curriculum, I think for primary, where from P1 to P4 they're supposed to study in their local languages. And then we have the lower secondary school curriculum that had just been launched. I think it is taking its 3rd year. There are a lot of controversies about senior 3 because it will be the first senior 3 to be in this curriculum. Do you think this is one of the solutions that Uganda and other African countries need in transformation?
I think this should be very participatory, in a such a way that not people just come and sit in the Ministry of Education and then plan for the whole country, and then without involving everyone, every stakeholder, because people need to be involved. The last time I was on this set, I used the example of the Batwa, whom they gave they gave iron sheet houses, and when during they ran out. Because this curriculum, I don't know whether it has been tested and proven, but I believe that there are technical people who are behind it. But we need to look at the biblical studies. The Bible is a library.
Doctor, at that very point, Young and Flourishing Foundation, and this program is centered around improving your mindset as a young person, because we are in a struggle to transform Africa. And the only way we can transform Africa is by changing our mindset over things, over what we see, over what we do, and over what happens. So that is the reason Young and Flourishing Foundation has brought to us Flourishing Hub. Flourishing Hub, so that you can become a world-class innovator as well. Hey, you can as well be in the Guinness Book of Records as an innovator. Don't think those people came from a different planet. We were all created by God. We are all in His image. So we are dealing with issues to do with education, and we are looking at the education Africa needs. And Doctor, before the break, you had started on something where you told us that the Bible is a dictionary. And please continue with this and show us how the Bible is a dictionary.
I said the Bible is a library.
Actually, library, sorry, yes. A library.
The Bible is a library. It has 66 books, and these 66 books, when you read them literally, they have everything that we need. It ranges from military to economics to politics and to technology. When I see there is a scripture that says that everything that has been, that is there now, it has been. It is in Ecclesiastes. So I was like, now, was there a tablet before? Then I remembered that Moses received the 10 Commandments
on a tablet.
On a tablet, and he was using, God was using a finger to write that. So exactly, there is nothing that is there now that has not been. So if we follow the Bible and we look at like the way David entered Jerusalem, and he was going through a channel, a sewage tunnel.
Yes.
So you can imagine in that time, people were using underground sewage tunnels. So what we think that those are innovations. If you really need an innovation, read the Bible. There is something which has not been tapped, and you'll be the first person to pick it up, and then it comes to the world as a new message. So when you try to connect Israel, Israel is a blessed nation that we all follow. But if you connect to the way they did their stuff, or they do things, and then you connect it with the House of Windsor in the ruling family in the UK, you see that these people just took the Bible for themselves and they used it to transform the world. So can we do that as Africans also, and we read it and understand, then we are able to transform our continent through what is written. Yes, you know, they said if you want to hide anything from an African, put it in the writing. Put it in the library.
So I think we start from that. We start from there. You said we should read because a lot of information is hidden in writing. Starting from the Bible. Like you say, there is nothing that has never been. So everything that you think you can do has been written somewhere. What do you think can be done to improve the reading culture of Africans, specifically Africans? Because surely this story must end. The slogan must end.
Yeah, when I graduated with my first degree at Makerere University, I first worked with Rockefeller Foundation, and we had a study that was funded by Minds Across Africa, literacy. Then we are looking at literacy practices in the primary schools of Uganda. And by then, there were very few people who knew how to read and write. Those of primary 1 up to primary 7, people could not read. So it was our effort to initiate reading, whereby we had to come up with readers, print out readers, you know, these small books called readers, and make them available for the young pupils to read. And that's how we have been able to improve the reading practice in the country. So such studies that the government need to invest much in it, and then cause people to read, to understand. So leave alone just reading. If that was done, then let's now go into the skilling bit. The government has invested so much in the parish development models and the like.
Parish and wealth creation.
Yeah, the wealth creation, but all that, it is intending to skill a Ugandan to have hands-on experience.
And these days, the president has come up with something new, and these are the industrial hubs that offer skills, practical skills, industrial practical skills to young people, and they are regional hubs these days. So you realize that a particular region, maybe the eastern region, has an industrial hub where young people go and attain skills.
Yes, so that is very important, and I think it's high time they also supported. Yes, they have been supporting the vocational studies, but it's high time they put in much more to support the vocational studies.
Supporting the vocational studies, I think it all starts with changing the mindset, including the parents out there. Parents believe that vocational education is for failures. So if my child doesn't perform well, P7 results will be released soon, Wednesday or Friday or Thursday or Friday. But you realize that some parents are like, if my child doesn't perform well in these exams, I'll take them for tailoring, I'll take them for this, you know. So parents, carpentry and joinery. So and they are polytechnic schools, government polytechnic schools, which admit P7 students. Okay, those who have successfully set P7 now. But even when they move out, even the parents look at them as those who failed in this formal education. I think it all starts with mindset change, one from the parents and the beneficiaries themselves. Then we can extend it to the government.
But you need to know that vocational pays. It pays in such a way that when someone, people are importing beds from Lebanon. There is a bed that I saw, a Lebanese bed that was sold at 7 million Uganda shillings.
There is a set of chairs of 20 million.
Okay, 2,000. I will use what I have seen myself. So that is $2,000 approximately.
Yes.
Just on one bed that was made of wood from Lebanon. Do you know how much wood we have here? If we can literally take our young people to go and just learn on how to fashion that wood to make it very attractive and have them here, then we wouldn't be importing such.
Yeah, true.
You see that? So we have a lot of resources here that are very much untapped, and we want to encourage Africans. Please, let's know how to harness what we have in order to transform our continent. But if we continue importing everything that we use here, then we shall lag behind. We shall not go anywhere. So our education needs to look into all this. Okay. We need to put an incentive to help these vocational studies to thrive. Maybe we need to reward them. If they are done, they need to be given the contracts to fix the state house, to fix these houses we have here. But now, if they do that, again, you have to import someone, an expatriate from abroad to come and do that. Then they find no reason for them to be to be in that profession or to be in that field.
You've reminded me, there is a carpentry and joinery workshop along Gaba Road. So the president supported them. And while giving his speech, he said, now I command all government institutions to come and buy their furniture from these people. But I wonder whether there are any government institutions that have ever gone to Zambia to buy furniture from there.
Now, if it is a presidential directive and it is put in practice, then it can work. Because look, remember during COVID-19, his word was final. If he said this, everyone would implement it. So meaning that there are law enforcers who are supposed to follow his directive. So if he directed that this furniture, I wish I got that information from the horse's mouth, then I would have used also the time to task the policy makers to make sure that they implement it. I mean, these products that are produced or that are made by our people should be marketed here.
Sure.
We talk of Bubu, buy Uganda, build Uganda. But again, we are still importing stuff.
Raw materials.
Raw materials. I know we are still exporting raw materials, importing importing the finished products. So our president is very much innovative, and he looks at how he can change the status quo in Uganda.
Yes.
But the people he works with sometimes put him down, let him down. He makes such a directive, and maybe they buy a few things today and tomorrow, and the next day they are importing, because they know if they import, they will get a difference. And we need to look into the matter. Now,
in this new lower secondary curriculum, there is an aspect of evaluation and testing, where now it is mandatory that every school should have practical skills, and these practical subjects like entrepreneurship, agriculture. So such subjects are supposed to be evaluated by DIT, which is Directorate of Industrial Training. Now, don't you think that as we take this lane, there will be a shortage of some of the professional personnel that we need, like doctors? Because if someone will be evaluated at senior 3 and then DIT awards them a certificate, then they'll not see a reason as why they should proceed with the other years in school. Yeah, they already have what they need. They have a skill. They can use this skill to get money. Don't you think there will be a time where we have shortage of professionals like lawyers, like doctors, and sort?
I don't think so. Sorry to diverge from what you think, but I look at it like, what's the population of Uganda so far? We are over 40 million.
Yes.
Yes, we are over 40 million. And you think that if the people go vocational, then we shall have less doctors and less lawyers. We still have doctors right now who are employed.
Yes.
Who are qualified, but they don't have government jobs. And they are unable even to begin their own
facilities.
Facility. So, but I'm glad that African Union in 2018, they came up with how like education in Africa, how it can be systematically put in place to help solve the problems of the continent. But now, the problem is that we don't have independent thinkers. And therefore, people sit in Washington, D.C., and then they determine what happens here in Africa. Or maybe through the World Bank, through IMF and the like, because they are the funders. Yeah. But if we come up with people, learners here in Africa, who have independent thoughts, and they think on how they can solve the problem that affect Africa as a continent, then we will be able to see a change. So we should find solutions and not just memorize. We are teaching our children just to pass exams. If you can memorize very well, then you have the best grades. If you can memorize what you studied very well, then you have better grades. But I have seen people who are not doing well in school, but now they are employing those who used to call what? Ebisparka, who used to know much more. Yeah, they are employing them. Do you know why? It is simply because these people were memorizing, but these other ones were solution what? Givers. So if someone can solve a problem, then he will be the next leader. Okay. Yeah.
Now, let us look at, because in this conversation, you've been somehow talking about what should be done, but let us look at it at a broader level. What should be done to improve the education in Africa? And as we discuss that, you'll also tell us why it is important that the education in Africa should be inclusive and equitable.
Okay, the education in Africa should be the education that promotes teamwork, so that it promotes people to collaborate and work amongst one another. Because even if as Uganda we implement it and Kenya is not doing it, or Rwanda or South Sudan or wherever, it will still be like it will not have a ripple effect. It will not affect everyone in the continent. And we are looking at how do we come up together and we team up to make sure that we solve our own problems. I commend the East Africa community, what it is doing, the many countries that have come together. If they can solve their problems together, not individually, then we will be able to achieve much more. But if Uganda wants to implement anything on Lake Victoria, and then Kenya refuses, even if it is an environmental kind of concern, then it will not help. It has to be a concerted effort of all the countries that surround the Lake Victoria. So let's have that teamwork, and we work together to develop our continent. That's what I see. Then the next could be that focusing on hands-on on skills, and we train our people to learn what to do, be result-oriented rather than just theory-oriented. I mean, you can tell me what to do, but as long as I don't justify the ends, then the means were useless. So the ends must justify the means. And then we need to have a tailor-made curriculum that addresses our current job markets, so that we don't look at students or people who graduate from the university, again, you task the employer to go ahead and train this person. Why don't we get that training and we put it in school at once?
People apply for jobs without that. After all, they'll offer me induction training. So they expect the induction training to be got at work, not from school. Yeah,
but it shouldn't be that very costly to the employer. And by the time someone is graduated from the university, he should be fully baked, like I said. So the World Bank Development Report paints sadly the accurate picture of learning crisis in Africa, and they say that 37 million children will learn so little in school, and they will not be much better off than kids who never went to school. That is a very sad report.
Sure.
I don't want to be in school, and then I come out of school, I'm not any different from someone who has never been there. So that's why we need to train critical thinkers and innovators.
So I look at critical thinking. How best can critical thinkers be trained?
Okay, critical thinkers, I think they are people who are entrepreneur based or centered. People who look at a problem as an opportunity to be turned into into a solution that will pay them money. Not looking at a problem as a curse. As a curse, no. As a misfortune. A problem is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to make money. So that is critical thinking. So like if the continent produces more entrepreneurs, much of Africa challenges can just go off. Like if we look at Dangote, the Nigerian billionaire, who is, I think, number one in the whole world. I mean, the way he started little by little, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, and now he has all that money that he's using to change the continent. So let's look at that. We train our people that much as you don't find a job, but let's use what we have to get or to create what we don't have.
Since this is the gospel you preach at Africa Population Institute, we cannot leave this platform without you speaking to the young people out there to change their mindset when it comes to education and employment.
Education and employment.
Yes.
Yes, I will encourage the young person that improving access on quality to public education. When you see in the United States of America, there is this NASA-funded projects. Those are very highly technical projects of going to the moon and doing all sorts of innovations, and they are NASA-funded. But let's have the government put a lot of resources and rewarding those who are innovators. Because right now we depend on what has been written. When you become an innovator, again, it has to be judged based on what has been written before or what is the status quo. So to avoid that, let's allow these innovators to thrive and do much more. So there should be, like we talked about the curriculum review for the better generation. So when we look at what has not been done, then we advise on what needs to be done. So there should be inclusive and participatory education that help people, that those you are targeting, the stakeholders, should be involved. There are some decisions that are made. I am in higher education, but there are some decisions that are made and we are meant just to implement them, but we never participated in developing those policies. But if we are included in the policy formulation, then some of the things to say, like taxation, why would you tax an institution that is helping skilling the people, and you are taxing them that they cannot even break even? You understand?
Yeah.
So let's look at this. So the organizations for economic cooperation and development, we need to collectively put in the entrepreneurship-centered learning that fuel deep learning and illustrates the practical relevance of the knowledge that they have achieved. So let's allow these people to thrive. If someone who comes up with an innovation, let it be copyrighted to them, and they are helped to protect and defend it. Okay. And it helps them to work. Thank you.
Wow. Even as we draw closer, what are your parting shots and closing remarks?
Yeah, my closing remarks, I'm glad to, I want to thank Family TV for putting this platform whereby we educate the youth in Africa and help them to know who they are. You know, the youth are very important. These are the people that can easily be used to do any criminal element and to do things that are not right. But once we teach them every evening, like we come here on Mondays and try to help them, I am sure there are those who are learning. We have had people coming to the Flourishing Hub to ask for mentorship, and we have offered free mentorship. Someone who comes and says, here I have a little money and I want to utilize it, or me, I don't have money, but my grandmother left me with this plot of land. Instead of selling it to go and buy a boda to come and ride in Kampala, we tell you, no, you can do this, and this is how you survive. Of recent, I saw how people were growing sweet potatoes in a sack on a balcony. Just putting soil and putting the banana vine, the vines, and at the end of it all, you're harvesting sweet potatoes. So let's see what we have. I'm sure every human being that God created, he has a purpose on earth. And that purpose can only be enhanced once you have good mentors. If you learn into the hands of good mentors, they can find out what you are capable of doing, and they help you go and do something that can be beneficial to your life and also to the community around you. And that's why we say at Africa Preparation Institute that together we can.
Indeed, together we can transform Africa. So, thank you so much for watching Church of Uganda Family TV, and thank you so much for choosing Flourishing Hub. In a special way, I want to thank the lady called Sally Josephine. Thank you so much for loving, supporting, and watching Flourishing Hub. And to you all that have been watching in, thank you so much. Just in case you want to catch up with our episodes of last year, go to our YouTube channel, COU Family TV, and look for the playlist. So in the Flourishing Hub playlist list, you'll find all the videos. So watch and share to your friends so they can also be watched. But Young and Flourishing Hub is always on every Monday at 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. like this time. Now, today I remain Edrine Austin Mukalazi. I've worked with Derek on camera and Mumuza in transmission. God bless you. We meet again next